hasty bugle movement, she never told me that a life lived long may not be a life lived right. And a life lived right may not be a life lived long, so happily she lived in wrongs to be right, dead by her sight. They say she was born with eyes as bright as the sun. They thought she was an angel. Upon arrival, she smiled and giggled just like one. They praised and thanked the Holy Son. 2 years after, she still lived as one. They spoiled and treated her just as one. Until they thought one would be lonely, so they conceived another notion. And happily she lived in rights to be wronged by his sight. At 8 pounds 3 ounces, they say he was born with skin like the deep blue sea. They say he was cyanotic. After 4 hours of labor, his oxygen was inadequate to perfuse his cells, so his blood vessels constricted to his core to protect his vital organs. The breath of life gave him death. Slowly alleviating the pressure in his cranial cells, he lay limp. His hands and feet cold as the devil's grin. But the panic in mother's voice couldn't save her baby boy, so she too turned blue. And as he tiptoed to the gates of heaven, he looked down on earth to see her tears of sadness and defeat, hyperventilating that her only son lay limp in her arms. They say he was born with skin like the deep blue sea. They say they saw the oxygen escaping his body. You see, 8 years after he was born, he still could not speak. He mumbled words, and I became the interpreter. Many times I felt his soul reach out to them like, Mom, Dad, I love you. Do you love me too? He was the kid no parents wanted. So he tricked and tested them, hyperactivity. He angered them and pissed them off, constant screaming and temper tantrums, so they could prove their love for him. How do you show an 8-year-old boy who cannot read or write or comprehend the words that are coming out of my mouth that you love him? More importantly, how do you know that he understands that everything you do is because you love him? Show me the power of love. Because from after the notion to day one, I've been tested. From day one to hospital, I've been tested. A lifetime of interpreting started when he was born. You know, sometimes it's really fucking hard being the one.
Go in.
They say he was born with skin like the deep blue sea. But my God, he can talk my head off. You see, he was a miracle baby. And 8 years after utter silence, he walks up to me from school one day and says, Ernest, my name is Ernest. They say I was born with skin like the deep blue sea. They say I was supposed to die.